Hello, BookTube. Today I'm going to be giving you my review of Get Carter, which was directed by Mike Hodges from 1971. This is rightly regarded as one of the best British gangster films ever made. The story follows Jack Carter, played by Michael Caine, as he returned from London, where he's a gangster for a couple of brothers who were clearly inspired by the Cray twins. Back to Newcastle, where his brother has died, and Carter greatly suspects his brother's death was not by natural causes, because the sort of nature of the way he died didn't fit with the way his brother was at all. And over the course of the film, Carter discovers that his brother didn't die naturally, he was in fact murdered, and it was to do with something he discovered involving Carter's niece and local pornography, and this leads Carter to go on a revenge. And at the same time, Carter's employers sent a couple of hitmen up north to bring him back, who were played by George Sewell and Tony Beckley, to bring him back, partly because he's causing trouble up there, and also because Carter has been involved with the girlfriend of one of the brothers, the brothers who he's employed by, who's the girlfriend played by Brick Eklund. Overall, I've watched this film a couple of times before. I should say it was based on a book called Jack Carter Goes Home by Ted Lewis, which I've not read, but I will at some point get around to buying a copy of the book and reading it. It has a great soundtrack. Roy Budd's sort of theme tune is sort of iconic, especially in the opening scene, where you see where the opening scene is Carter travelling up on an old-fashioned British rail train from London to Newcastle, and sort of the journey is sort of the music the opening theme very much fits that journey north, and sort of gives you very much a sense of the way the story's going to go. The cast is really good. The cast is one of those where, if you watch British TV and film from the 60s and 70s, you'll recognise almost everybody in it. You've obviously got Michael Caine. I mentioned two of the actors. So Tony Beckley played Gay Freddy in The Italian Job, which was made in 1969. And it's interesting to think that this came out in 1971, but it was made in 1970, and so it was made a year after The Italian Job. But the difference is, the sort of difference in tone is really noticeable. Where The Italian Job is very much a fun sort of caper, this is very much a grim, hard-boiled revenge thriller. George Sewell, who's been in almost everything at the time when this came out, he was in an ITV series called Special Branch, which followed the British police forces, a sort of political terrorism branch called Special Branch, which is worth a watch. Bernard Hepton is in it as Thorpe. Bernard Hepton is one of those actors who was in almost everything in the 1960s and 70s in British TV and film to an extent. The main sort of northern villain gangster, sort of mob boss, who's played by who's called Cyril Kinnear. He's played by the playwright John Osborne really well. I mean, he's able to get over a sort of sense of menace without having to shout or scream. He's very soft-spoken. In fact, I believe when they were doing the film, they actually had to record some of the scenes with John Osborne, because John Osborne was speaking so softly that they couldn't quite pick up his dialogue. But he's able to get across a menace and some power without having to sort of be flashy about it, and that's really good. And then you've got Ian Hendry as Kinnear's sort of dog's body chauffeur, sort of enforcer, where there's a very famous entertaining scene between Michael Caine's character and Ian Hendry's character, where Ian Hendry's he's dressed in a Selfridge uniform, and he's wearing sunglasses, and Michael Caine takes them off and just says about his eyes, like piss holes in the snow, which is one of the numerous sort of quotes from the film. The other famous one is there's a local businessman who you learn is connected with um, Jack Carter's brother's death because of it, because this character Brumby is opposed to Kinnear, who is and when Carter first meets him, he goes into his home where Brumby's daughter is holding a party that her parents didn't know about, and Brumby's throwing them all out, and then Carter sort of slips in and confronts, sort of meets Brumby, and Brumby sort of being very confrontational about him, and Carter just says, "Behave yourself. You're a big man, but you're out of shape. With me, it's a full-time job." I mean, this is really great lines, entertaining lines. It's really good. I mean, it's also the cinematography is great. You get to see sort of working class Newcastle, sort of northeast England of the era, the sort of industrial, nearly post-industrial area, the coal, the back-to-back houses. It's very much like to a degree. I don't know if Mike Hodges was influenced by Ken Loach with the sort of kitchen sink drama side of things, but you get an element of that. You get an element of that very much grim and gritty side of sort of Britain in the 1970s. And it really is a good sort of testament, sort of slice of what Britain looked like at that point. So I mean, though I'm far too young to remember it, my stepfather very much who was born in 1955, was a young man in the 70s, and he's told me before that it wasn't that much different down here in the Midlands. Obviously, where I live in the West Midlands is a very much now post-industrial but very industrialised area of the country at the time, and so if it's really sort of good as an idea of what the country was like, sort of particularly working class Britain of the year. Overall, I really enjoyed it. I would recommend anybody to watch it if you can. And this also includes an audio commentary with Mike Hodges, Michael Caine, as well as the cinematographer, whose name is Wolfgang Szusinski. I believe that Suschinski. I believe that is pronounced. I apologise if that's incorrect. Who talks about it's interesting to listen to them, where Michael Caine does actually talk about the fact that he grew up in the East End of London. He grew up in London, I think in East End, and so he knew gangsters. And he said that one of the things he wanted to get over when he did this film was to show gangsters as they were. That in British films before Get Carter, they were portrayed as sort of comic or stupid, but he wanted to show them as sort of serious and dangerous. And he, growing up in London in the 30s and 40s, had sort of known some gangsters. And also Mike Hodges talked about sort of showing wanting to show along with Wolfgang Szucinski, wanted to sort of show very much this the world. There's a world of Newcastle at the time, and so that really does come across. And there's really great shots, especially the sort of final shots at the climax, which is set on the beach, and it's where Michael Caine is sort of hunting down and then finally kills Ian Hendry's character. But where it's done is there's the coals is where coal slag has been dropped out into the sea, and there's these huge buckets on cables filled with coal that go out, empty the sort of slag, and then come back up, and it's done, and it's really foggy, it's early in the morning, really atmospheric, really works well for the story. So as I say, overall, really enjoyed it and would recommend anybody who hasn't seen it to see it. Goodbye, Bob.